Rain slid from the jungle canopy in slow, heavy drops, each one striking the mud with a muted thud that blended into the suffocating silence. Sergeant Elias Vorn lay prone beneath a web of roots and rotting leaves, his breathing shallow, his pulse disciplined into stillness. Through the scope of his rifle, the world narrowed into a single corridor of green and shadow, where death was supposed to be clean, precise, and unseen. That was how it used to be. A flicker of movement caught his eye. He adjusted the focus by a fraction, revealing the alien patrol moving with careless confidence through the undergrowth. Their armor shimmered faintly, bending light in unnatural ways, as if the jungle itself refused to acknowledge them. They did not crouch or scan or whisper. They walked openly, laughing in harsh, distorted tones that bled through the translation feed in Vorn's earpiece. "Is this what passes for predators on Earth?" One of them sneered, its voice sharp and layered. "We expected hunters. We found prey." Vorn steadied his aim on the lead alien's head. Distance, wind, humidity. His mind calculated everything in an instant. His finger tightened on the trigger, smooth and controlled. The rifle barely whispered as it fired. The shot never landed. A faint ripple shimmered across the alien's armor, and the round deflected with a useless spark. The patrol didn't even flinch at first. Then one of them tilted its head, scanning lazily before letting out a low, mocking chuckle. "Another attempt," it said. "They never learn." Vorn's jaw tightened. He shifted position, already compensating, already preparing a second shot. This time he aimed for a joint, a weaker seam in the armor. He fired again. The result was the same. A flash, a deflection, and then laughter, louder now, echoing through the dense jungle like a taunt that refused to fade. "Come out," another alien called, its voice amplified across the trees. "Show us your face. We would like to see the creature that keeps missing." Static crackled through Vorn's comms as distant gunfire erupted to the east. A squad had tried to engage. The sound of human rifles was frantic, uneven. It ended quickly, too quickly. He didn't look. He couldn't afford to. But the silence that followed was heavier than the rain. "Sniper teams are down," a strained voice whispered over the channel. "They're walking straight through us." Vorn exhaled slowly, forcing the anger down. Anger made mistakes. Mistakes got you killed. He adjusted his grip, feeling the damp earth seep into his gloves, grounding him. The jungle pressed in from all sides, thick with rot and life, and something older that seemed to watch without caring. The aliens moved closer now, stepping over roots and pools of stagnant water, their posture relaxed, almost bored. One of them paused, turning its helmet directly toward Vorn's position. For a moment, the world held its breath. "Found you," it said softly. Vorn didn't hesitate. He fired again, not expecting success, only buying time. The round shattered harmlessly against the same invisible barrier, and the alien's laughter followed immediately, cold and amused. Pathetic. A sudden burst of energy tore through the undergrowth, striking the ground meters from Vorn and sending mud spraying across his face. He rolled instinctively, abandoning his position as more blasts carved into the earth where he had been lying seconds before. The jungle erupted into chaos, branches snapping, steam rising where alien fire met wet soil. He crawled, then sprinted low, disappearing into thicker cover, his heart hammering despite his control. Behind him, the patrol didn't pursue with urgency. They didn't need to. They run. One of them broadcasted, its voice echoing across all frequencies. "They always run." Vorn slid into a hollow beneath a fallen tree, pressing himself into darkness. His rifle felt heavier now, less certain. For the first time since the war began, the idea crept in, not just that they could lose, but that they were already losing. The comm in his ear crackled again, this time with a different tone. "Calm. Controlled. Final. Stand by," command said. "Reinforcements are inbound." Vorn closed his eyes briefly, rain dripping through the cracks above him. "Deploying asset, Ghostroot." The jungle grew quieter after the transmission, as if even the rain had paused to listen. Vorn remained motionless beneath the fallen tree, replaying the words in his mind. Reinforcements were not unusual, but the tone had been different, measured, almost cautious. He adjusted his earpiece, expecting clarification, but none came. The line went dead, leaving only the distant hum of alien movement threading through the trees. Minutes passed, stretching into something heavier. Then, without warning, a faint tremor rippled through the ground. It wasn't the thunder of a dropship or the roar of engines. It was softer, controlled, like something large choosing not to be heard. Vorn shifted slightly, angling his view through a narrow break in the roots. A shadow moved between the trees. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light, a distortion caused by the dense canopy and drifting mist. But then it moved again, deliberate, fluid, and low to the ground. No armor shimmer, no mechanical noise, no signature for his scope to lock onto. Just absence shaped like a man. Command, Vorn whispered, his voice barely audible. I have movement. No IFF. No. Hold position. The reply came instantly. Do not engage. The shadow disappeared. Vorn's grip tightened around his rifle. Every instinct told him to track it, to follow, to identify. Instead, he stayed still, forcing himself into discipline. Whatever had arrived, it wasn't meant to be seen. Across the jungle floor, the alien patrol continued its advance, their confidence unchanged. They spoke openly, their translated voices cutting through the silence with sharp amusement. Another unit approaches, one of them noted. Life signs minimal. Energy signature negligible. Another failure, then another replied. We will add them to the count. Vorn's jaw set. He watched them through his scope, noting their spacing, their rhythm, the subtle patterns in their movement. He had studied them for weeks, searching for flaws that never revealed themselves. Now, for the first time, he wasn't the only one watching. The lead alien paused abruptly. Wait, it said. The patrol halted, their formation tightening. A faint flicker passed across their armor as their systems adjusted, scanning the environment with increased intensity. I am detecting. The sentence ended in a sharp crack. The alien's head snapped back, its body collapsing into the mud before the sound had fully registered. For a fraction of a second, the jungle returned to silence. Then chaos followed. Contact, one of them shouted, spinning toward the direction of the shot. Source unknown. Vorn's eyes widened. He hadn't seen the muzzle flash. He hadn't heard the report clearly. The shot had been perfectly timed, perfectly placed, and completely concealed. The remaining aliens activated their defenses instantly, their armor glowing faintly as shields intensified. Scanning beams cut through the foliage, slicing the jungle into visible layers of heat and motion. Reveal yourself, one of them demanded, its voice no longer amused. You are detected. Nothing answered. Another crack split the air. A second alien dropped, its body folding unnaturally as it hit the ground. This time, the patrol fired blindly into the surrounding trees, energy bolts tearing through vines and trunks in wild arcs. Steam rose where the blast struck wet earth, but there was no return fire, no visible target. They're not here, one of them said, its tone shifting towards something unfamiliar. They are. A third shot. Silence followed it, heavier than before. Vorn lowered his rifle slightly, his breath slow and controlled, but his thoughts racing. Whoever was out, there wasn't just skilled. They were invisible in a way that defied everything he understood about warfare. No wasted movement. No hesitation. Each shot final. The aliens regrouped, their formation tighter now, their movements sharper. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something brittle. We are being hunted, one of them said quietly. Vorn's gaze shifted back to the place where he had seen the shadow. There was nothing there now. No movement, no trace, no sign that anyone had ever been. But the jungle felt different. Alive. Watching. Waiting. And for the first time since the invasion began, Vorn understood the change in Command's voice. This wasn't reinforcement. This was something else entirely. The jungle no longer felt like a battlefield. It had become a living trap, and Vorn could sense the shift with every breath he took. He remained concealed beneath the fallen tree, but his role had changed from hunter to witness. Somewhere beyond his sight line, the unseen presence moved with deliberate patience, shaping the flow of the fight without revealing itself. The aliens, once loud and careless, now advanced in tight formation, their weapons raised, their scanning beams sweeping constantly through the foliage. "Maintain cohesion," one of them ordered, its voice sharp with restrained urgency. "The threat relies on concealment. We will deny it space." Vorn watched closely, analyzing their adjustment. They were learning, but too slowly. Their technology compensated for fear, yet it could not erase it. The jungle distorted their sensors, bending heat and motion into meaningless noise. What had once been their advantage was unraveling, strand by strand. A faint disturbance rippled through a cluster of hanging vines to the patrol's left. It was subtle, almost invisible, but Vorn caught it. So did one of the aliens. It turned instantly, weapon charging, and fired a concentrated burst into the greenery. The blast shredded leaves and bark, sending debris cascading to the ground. Nothing emerged. "False signal," it muttered. Another alien shifted its stance. "No, it is testing us." Before the thought could settle, a shot rang out. The rearmost alien dropped without a sound, its body collapsing forward as if its strings had been cut. The formation broke instinctively, each soldier pivoting outward, firing in overlapping arcs. Energy bolts carved through the jungle, burning through trunks and boiling puddles into clouds of steam. Vorn tracked their movements, his mind mapping the chaos. Whoever was out there had forced them to react, to abandon their rhythm. That was the first step in breaking an enemy, strip away certainty. The patrol began to move again, faster now, their discipline fraying at the edges. "Advance," one of them snapped. "We flush it out together." They didn't make it 3 steps. Another shot echoed, sharper this time, followed by the immediate collapse of a second alien. No warning, no visible source. Just absence where a living being had stood moments before. Vorn felt a chill settle beneath his skin. He had spent years mastering distance, wind, and concealment, but this was something beyond refinement. This was control over the entire environment, as if the shooter dictated where reality itself allowed life to exist. "Show yourself," one of the remaining aliens shouted, its voice cracking with something dangerously close to panic. "Face us." The jungle answered with silence. Then movement. A shadow slipped between 2 massive roots, low and fluid, barely more than a suggestion against the dark soil. Vorn's breath caught. For a fraction of a second, he saw it clearly. A figure cloaked in mud and woven fibers, its outline broken by strands of vegetation, its presence swallowed by the terrain itself. Ghostroot. The figure paused, rifle steady, posture relaxed despite the chaos. There was no rush, no wasted motion. It observed, calculated, and chose. Another shot. The last alien in Vorn's line of sight fell instantly, its weapon discharging harmlessly into the air as it collapsed. The jungle fell silent once more, the echoes of violence fading into the steady rhythm of rain. Vorn exhaled slowly, his grip loosening slightly as the realization settled in. This wasn't a battle in the conventional sense. It was a systematic erasure. Each movement, each shot, each moment of stillness was part of a design he could barely comprehend. His calm crackled faintly, pulling him back. "Report," command requested. Vorn hesitated, searching for words that felt inadequate. "Enemy patrol neutralized," he said finally. No visual confirmation of allied asset. There was a pause on the other end, then a quiet acknowledgement. As the line went silent again, Vorn's gaze returned to the jungle. The place where he had seen the figure was empty now, as if it had never been there at all. But the feeling remained. They weren't just fighting an enemy anymore. They had unleashed something that hunted without being seen. The jungle held its breath after the patrol's destruction, as if acknowledging a shift that could not be undone. Vorn remained in place, listening to the rain, the distant crackle of burned vegetation, and the hollow absence of alien voices that had once filled the air with arrogance. The silence was no longer suffocating. It was controlled, deliberate, and it did not belong to the invaders anymore. Command, Vorn said quietly, his voice steady now. Area is clear. Negative. The reply came after a brief pause. Long-range scans show additional units converging on your sector. Elite detachment. Vorn's eyes narrowed. The aliens were adapting again, escalating. Understood. He shifted slightly, repositioning for a wider field of view. The jungle ahead seemed unchanged, but he knew better now. Every shadow could conceal movement. Every root could hide a rifle. He wasn't alone in the fight anymore, yet he still couldn't locate the one who had turned the tide. Minutes passed before the next sign appeared. A low hum vibrated through the ground, different from before, heavier, more aggressive. Through the dense foliage, shapes emerged, larger than the previous patrol, their armor darker, layered with reinforced plating that pulsed faintly with energy. Their movements were precise, disciplined, lacking the careless arrogance of the earlier unit. We know you are here, one of them broadcasted, its voice calm and calculated. You rely on concealment. You rely on fear. Neither will save you. Vorn steadied his rifle, though he knew the shot would be useless. This wasn't his fight to start. It was his fight to understand. The elite unit advanced slowly, scanning in synchronized patterns, their weapons tracking every possible angle. Their coordination was flawless, leaving no obvious opening, no exposed flank. They had learned from the other's failure. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a single shot broke the silence. One of the elite soldiers staggered, its armor sparking where the round struck. It didn't fall immediately. Instead, it turned toward the impact point, its weapon firing in a controlled burst that shredded the surrounding trees. Contact confirmed, it said. Engaging. The jungle erupted again, but this time the response was measured. The aliens fired in calculated sequences, overlapping fields of destruction designed to eliminate any hidden position. Vorn tracked the exchange, his mind racing to follow the invisible movements guiding the fight. Another shot rang out, sharper, more precise. The damaged alien collapsed fully this time, its reinforced armor unable to compensate for the perfect placement. The formation tightened instantly. He adapts, one of them said. He studies. Vorn felt a faint shift in the air, a presence moving just beyond perception. He caught a glimpse again, barely a fraction of a second, a figure sliding between shadows, its outline dissolving into mud and foliage as if it had never been solid to begin with. Ghostroot wasn't just hiding. He was choosing when to exist. The elite unit pressed forward, their discipline holding, but the cracks were forming. Each step they took brought another shot, another loss, another fracture in their control. They fired, scanned, advanced, but they never found their target. You cannot win this way. Their leader broadcasted, its voice rising slightly. Face us. The answer came in the form of a final shot. The leader froze, its body locking for an instant before collapsing forward into the mud. The remaining soldiers hesitated, just long enough for the jungle to reclaim them one by one. Silence returned. Vorn lowered his rifle, his breath steady, but his thoughts unsettled. The fight was over, yet there was no sense of victory in the traditional sense. There were no survivors to confirm, no ally to acknowledge. Command, he said, his voice quieter now. Sector secured. There was a pause before the response came. Understood. Hold position. Vorn's gaze drifted across the jungle one last time. The rain continued to fall, washing away footprints, dissolving evidence, erasing everything that had happened. Everything except the feeling. They had sent something into the jungle that didn't fight like a soldier, didn't move like a man, and didn't leave anything behind. And somewhere out there, unseen and untraceable, it was still watching.